Finally, you can schedule the broadcast for later by clicking this button. If your schedule for later is unchecked, then your options will be create broadcast and start streaming. This will make you go live immediately. But hold on, don't do that because we need to go through your bitrate settings before you even think about sending this broadcast through. The next important things we need to do are in settings, and they are in video first off. And generally speaking, you're going to want your stream, your base canvas, and your scaled canvas. You're going to want these to be the same, and you're going to want them to be 1920 by 1080 because most devices and internet speeds can keep up with that amount. It's pretty common to do 60 frames per second, especially in gaming or something that's high action. But if you're finding that you need to lower the settings in order to maintain your internet speed bitrate stuff that we're going to talk about in just a moment, then you could always lower it to 30 frames per second, especially if you're doing talking head stuff. But once you're done with these settings, hit apply and then move on to the output tab. Make sure that your output mode is on advanced instead of simple in order to access these options. For the output tab, there's a couple options here, specifically for the video encoder and for the bitrate. For video encoders, there are a few options. You have the GPU-based options, which are the NVIDIA, the AMD, sometimes Intel will come up here, the Mac, anything that says like an actual name will most likely be your GPU. GPUs are the best way of encoding because they have generally a dedicated chip and allows the GPU to be able to do other things while it's also encoding your stream. Pick a GPU encoder if you can. If you cannot, if that is not available, then you could do X264, which means that your CPU is encoding that profile instead. So I'm going to stick to something very friendly to all platforms and do H264. I'm going to leave the rate control at CBR, and your bitrate is determined by your internet speed. In order to do that, you need to go to a site like speedtest.net, and you need to hit the go icon in the middle in order to test your internet connection. As you can see, my test results were a 904.91 for the download and a 928.77 for the upload. And the way that I like to do this is I like to take the number that I have and I like to cut it in half. 928 does not break evenly in half very well, so I'm going to just imagine that my upload speed is actually an 800 megabytes per second. 800 cut in half is 400. So we're going to assume it's 400 megabytes per second. The easiest way to do this, to convert it into kilobytes, is to just add 3 zeros to the end. So my 400 is now going to be 400,000, and that's going to equal kilobytes. 400,000 kilobytes per second is exactly how much I have internet speed wise to use for the bit rate of my stream. To reference that to an actual chart, we would then go to the official YouTube recommended streaming settings, which I will link in the description. And on this page, it tells you exactly the requirements that they recommend. for each quality level. As you can see, we are doing 1080p at 60 frames per second. If we go over to the right side, and in case you're wondering, and we don't have 1,000, then cut 12,000 about how that math works out, then please comment below. So let's go ahead and put in my 12,000 recommended bitrate. As for the keyframe interval, YouTube actually recommends 2 seconds. For the preset, I recommend P4, which is medium to medium quality. The lower you go to P7, the best quality you have, but the harder it is. For your computer to run, and vice versa. The higher up you go to P1 will be lower quality, but will be the easiest for your computer to run. It's been proven by other content creators that medium quality seems to be the best return for what you're giving up. Tuning, stick to high quality, and multipass mode, turn it to single pass. Your profile can be on high, and I would turn off look ahead and cycle visual tuning. Your GPU is most likely going to be 0 if you have a dedicated GPU, which means it's not tied to your CPU. If you have a laptop, then most likely you will have a GPU tied to your CPU, but in order to check that, the easiest thing you can do is actually just hit Control-Alt-Delete and go to Task Manager. When you pull your Task Manager up, go ahead and hit the Performance tab, and you will see down here at the bottom that it states what number your GPU is named. As you can see, my GPU is named GPU 0, but you may have multiple GPUs show up, and you need to figure out which one is the better GPU, and then you need to put that number in this spot. Your B frames should be a max of 2. And then once you're done with these settings, you can go ahead and hit apply. Now that you've set up your settings, before you start streaming, just be aware that you probably want an overlay of some kind in order to be more visually appealing to your audience. There are many ways to find overlays, both professional, paid ones, and also professional free ones. I'm going to show you a couple quick methods so you know where to look. The first site I would recommend to a lot of people is owned.tv, and you can hit the stream overlays package and you.
Hey, are you also tired of dealing with complex setups just to live stream?
Setting up OBS to stream to YouTube is really easy.
Today we're going to look at an advanced setup for OBS using multiple cameras as different sources, as well as someone else's camera through an online video chat platform. So let's get into it. So in today's lesson, we're going to load up our OBS Open Broadcast Software program. Today we're going to be using what's called a nesting scene. We're going to dive into it, but a nesting scene is basically you making multiple scenes, and then on any new.
My last video about OBS Studio reached 100,000 views. It blew my mind. It wasn't even supposed to be a tutorial, but many people used it in that way. I can do way better when it comes to showing you how to use OBS Studio effectively. That's what I'll do today. I'll show you how. This is for teachers, trainers, video makers, presentation givers, presenters, and anyone else that wants to be at the top of their game when on camera or when recording their screen. Before we jump onto my PC, download and install OBS Studio and start from the very beginning, I want to talk about your online privacy and security. Do you use the internet a lot? Working, surfing, managing documents online, doing your online banking, watching handsome YouTubers talk about software? Well, listen to this. You don't need me to tell you that we live in an age where our personal and private data is bought and sold on a daily basis. Everything we do online is unprotected, tracked, and collected. Even if you use incognito mode on Chrome or on Edge or Brave or whatever browser you use, your ISP, your internet service provider, still has access to your online activity. NordVPN is a super easy to use VPN which prevents this invasion of your privacy and your security, and it ensures your safety from hackers, data miners, and nosy websites. It also allows you to access exclusive regional content from anywhere in the world, and it potentially speeds up your internet connection as well. A VPN is a virtual private network, and full disclosure, I had never used one before recently. I started using NordVPN for a few reasons, and actually none of those reasons initially included for my own security, but now that's definitely one of the main reasons. Let me tell you exactly what I use NordVPN for. Gaming. I sometimes play online games, and I noticed that I'd been getting so much lag recently. Someone told me a VPN might help with this lag when gaming, and I didn't believe them at first. So I downloaded NordVPN, connected to a US server from Peru, and the lag stopped, like magic. I started gaming again. This is especially useful if you play games with mates in other countries. Netflix and other location-exclusive content. In Peru, I get Netflix US, which, to be honest, is superior. But there are some shows that I want to watch that are only on Netflix UK. So from Peru, I can connect to a UK server, and then I have access to Netflix UK. Note that this doesn't bypass a Netflix subscription. You still need that. Saving money. Firstly, some websites save your data and give you prices based on where you live. And they know where you live because of your IP address. Have you ever noticed that when you're looking for a hotel room or a flight, each time you go back, it gets more expensive? Companies notice that you keep coming back to check out that product or service. So they kind of know you're going to buy it eventually. They up the price until you give in and buy it at a higher price than you normally would have if you'd had a VPN. Security. Like I said, this wasn't the main reason that I got NordVPN. It was to give me a better internet connection when doing certain things, which it has done. But I also do a lot of money managing online, and I don't want my credit card details or my banking info stolen. With NordVPN, I can connect to over 5,300 different servers in 59 different countries. No limits, no borders, no nonsense, all with literally a single click. Want to try NordVPN for yourself? Click the link in the description or use the code. It's obsproject.com. End result, it's what the viewer sees if you're using it as a webcam, or what you are actually recording if you're recording your screen or recording something. So right now we have nothing in either one. Before we put something in there, let's just make it a little bit bigger, and let's just go through a few things that we see right in front of us. The very first thing I want to say is everything is clickable and draggable, and you can customize your OBS exactly how you want it. But if you accidentally, really mess it up and you have no idea how to get everything back, then you can actually go to View, Docs, and then Reset UI. So you reset the user interface back to the original settings. And to kind of stop yourself from messing it up again, go to View, Docs, and lock your UI. And now you can't drag anything around, and it will always look like this. Okay, so bottom left, we have Scenes. Then after that, we have Sources. And then we have an audio mixer, and then scene transitions, and then some basic buttons, some of the main buttons for us. We have transitions up here, preview, program. Let's go through them a bit slower. Scenes. Imagine that you are a film director, okay, and you have several scenes that you want to go through. On these scenes, you need to put things, so you need to put objects in there. That's where sources comes in. So sources are the things that are in the scenes. On the bottom of scenes, you can see add scene, remove scene, move it up, move it down. Same for sources. You can add, remove, go to properties, move things up, move things down. So we'll make a scene and add some sources in just a second. The next thing is audio mixer. If you're just using OBS as a virtual webcam, then Audio Mixer doesn't really matter. It's not really important. But if you're recording your screen or streaming, then you might want to take a look at the audio settings, which I'll get into later. But don't worry, if you're just using it as a webcam, doesn't matter what goes on here. You can even click these speakers to mute everything. Then we have scene transitions. Now in studio mode, we have scene transitions here as well. So this is a little bit redundant. Unless you're not in studio mode, then it's pretty useful. So I usually remove this, but I'm just going to leave it there. In order to remove something, you just right click and then go to what you want to untick, and then it will disappear from the UI. But I'm just going to leave it here for the moment. And then we have the main things here: start streaming, start recording, studio mode, settings, and then exit. Let's set up our first scene. We already have a default scene here just called scene, and we could add a new one, or we could just use this one. Let's add a new one, and we'll call it, doesn't matter what you call it by the way, anything you rename here in OBS, it's just so you can identify it yourself later, so the names of things doesn't change anything. But I'm just going to call it live, and it's the scene that I'll use when I'm live on camera. I could move this up to the top by clicking the up arrow, or I could move it down. This just changes where it is, doesn't change anything about the scene. Click these speakers to mute everything. Then we have scene transitions. Now in studio mode, we have scene transitions here as well. So this is a little bit redundant. Unless you're not in studio mode, then it's pretty useful. So I usually remove this, but I'm just going to leave it there. In order to remove something, you just right click and then go to what you want to untick, and then it will disappear from the UI. But I'm just going to leave it here for the moment. And then we have the main things here: start streaming, start recording, studio mode, settings, and then exit. Let's set up our first scene. We already have a default scene here just called scene, and we could add a new one, or we could just use this one. Let's add a new one, and we'll call it, doesn't matter what you call it by the way, anything you rename here in OBS, it's just so you can identify it yourself later, so the names of things doesn't change anything. But I'm just going to call it live, and it's the scene that I'll use when I'm live on camera. I could move this up to the top by clicking the up arrow, or I could move it down. This just changes where it is, doesn't change anything about the scene itself, it just changes its position here in this list. If I want to remove the other scene, I can just click it, and I could click remove here, or I could right click it and click remove here. You get a lot more options when you right click things, so I could duplicate it, I could copy all of the filters, which we'll talk about soon, and paste them over to another scene. But for now, let's just remove it using this button. Are you sure? Yes, it's gone. So we just have this one scene still. Nothing's happening in preview or in program because we haven't put any sources in yet. So the first source I'm going to add is going to be my webcam. So I'm going to go to sources and click add. And then let's go to video capture device. That's if you want to add your webcam. And I'm just going to rename it submit so I know what it is in future. Then I can click OK. One of the things that immediately stands out to me is the fact that it's square. Why is it square? It's because I haven't set up the resolution. So my camera is 1080p. So if I click the drop down next to resolution FPS type and click custom,
Hey guys, this is Tim from Your Six Studios, and on this video today I'm going to be doing a video showing you how to set up a live 24/7 music stream. So how do we do this? We're going to need some software. Let's go ahead and over and get that now.
In this video, I'm going to show you how to go ahead and stream to YouTube utilizing OBS Studio. Let's go ahead and dive in. So the very first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go ahead and open up OBS Studio. If you don't have OBS Studio installed, I'll put a link in the description of this video for you to go ahead and get it all set up. So once you have OBS Studio open, you're going to come here to the right hand side and we're going to select settings. The first thing we're going to do is going to get connected to YouTube. So you're going to come on the left, you're going to select stream. When it says service, you're going to click that and you're going to select YouTube RTMP-S. Now you're going to have two options here. It's going to say connect account, which is the recommended, and it's the one I recommend as well, and then use your stream key. Now, before we go ahead and connect our account to YouTube, there's one important thing that you need to know. If you've never streamed to YouTube, you are going to need to go ahead and get approved, and it does take 24 hours for you to go ahead and gain access. The amount of subscribers and viewers and things that you have does not matter. You just need to get approved and request access, and it does take 24 hours. So let me go ahead and show you what that looks like if it's going to be your first time trying to stream on YouTube. So once you get logged into your YouTube channel, you're going to come to the top right and you're going to go ahead and select Go Live. Once you go ahead and select that, it's going to bring you to a screen just like this. It's going to say request access to streaming. Once you request it, it may take up 24 hours to gain access to live streaming. So you simply go ahead and select request. It's going to give you a timer and then you'll be able to check back in within 24 hours. So once you've gone ahead and gotten approved, you can go ahead and continue to follow along with the steps that I'm about to show you now. So we'll come back here to OBS and now we can go ahead and select connect account. Once we do that, that's going to go ahead and ask us to go ahead and get logged in with our YouTube channel. We'll then go ahead and say continue to give access to OBS, and it's going to say authorization completed successfully. You can now close this page. So I'm going to come back here to OBS and you're going to see here that now my account has been connected. Then you want to make sure you select here where it says ignore streaming service settings recommendations. You want to make sure that that is unchecked. Then you're going to go ahead and press OK. This is going to go ahead and pop back here where it says ignore streaming service settings recommendations. You want to make sure that that is unchecked. Then you're going to go ahead and press OK. This is going to go ahead and pop up a window just like this. Now, because OBS integrates to YouTube, you're going to be able to monitor your YouTube chat directly inside of OBS. So you can see here, YouTube chat, once a broadcast has been created, your live stream chat would appear here, right? So we'll go ahead and scroll this over. We'll go ahead and tag this here to the left. So just drag it until you see it pop up. And now it's going to go ahead and be in place. So now that we have that in place, now we want to go ahead and set up our live stream to be able to make sure that when it goes live. So you'll come here to the right and you're going to select manage broadcast. This is the benefit of connecting using the recommended option because you can customize everything directly inside of OBS. So you're going to go ahead and select create a new broadcast. You're going to name this your title of your stream. Make sure you utilize something that generates some curiosity, gets people interested on what you're going to be talking about. Your description, this is where you're going to be able to put in links to follow you on social media. media, to be able to donate. This is where you put in the information about what your stream's about and where people can find you. Now here where it says privacy, this is extremely important because if you have this on private, or unlisted.